How's it going tonight, Broncos country? Miles Smith here on the Crushing It podcast, and I've got some slightly concerning news to make out of reading this Denver Post article written by, let me find it, Luka Evans over at the Denver Post. Folks, we might be in for an offseason that none of us are going to be entirely pleased with. Denver is coming into this with $28 million in cap room, and there are some moves to be made. There are spots to be improved on, but Luka Evans not predicting any super crazy swings. So, let's break this down a little bit, kind of position by position here. We'll start at quarterback, and we're going to breeze over a lot of this, but everyone knows who Denver has right now. It's Nick, Stidham, Ellinger. They're saying that Denver needs another quarterback in the room and to re-sign Ellinger. I could get behind that 100%. I don't know what they would do in free agency. I know it's been kind of reported that Denver's shopping Jarrett Stidham, which I think if you can flip him for a 5 or a 6 from a QB needy team, I think that would be incredible here. But we keep reading on. Some of the options: Zach Wilson, who's already been a Bronco as part of that 2024 squad, and he absolutely loved being here. Sam Howell had a starting year with Washington, and then Teddy Bridgewater would be another former Bronco, came in the year before Russell Wilson, and won more games, frankly, than Russell Wilson did. That's not going to be anywhere that I think Denver takes a significant swing, although I think they might bring somebody in because I don't think they're drafting anybody in like the 6th round. I don't think anybody is mocking Denver to take a quarterback here, but let's get into the real concern, running back, because this is where it gets just a little concerning because they are not predicting Denver to take a big swing here. So the key market options, again, Kenneth Walker. There have been reports that Denver's going to be in on him. Travis Etienne, who I think would be really, really fun. Rico Dowdle, we saw go on a crazy stretch in Carolina. Tyler Algier doesn't have a lot of tread on the tires behind Bijan Robinson. He's been more of a red zone guy in Atlanta. Kenneth Gainwell for the Steelers kind of does a little bit of everything. And then Emmanuel Wilson from the Packers. And here's the thing, they are not predicting Denver to do anything crazy. And this is, and I am quoting Luka Evans here, don't be surprised if the Broncos walk away with Dobbins, Harvey, and a supplemental piece instead of swinging big. Wilson is an interesting name, a 226-pound running back who ran for 496 yards in Green Bay last season. I think this is a 5-alarm fire. If Denver is not actively trying to improve, to full-blown improve at these big positions of need with the cap space they have to work with now that Russell Wilson's contract isn't eating up that cap space, there needs to be a serious look at the front office, at what George Paton is doing. I get that they're trying to be opportunistically aggressive, but if there is not a legitimate attempt to get this team over the hump after we could have potentially won a Super Bowl with or without Bo Nix with some better play at the running back position, that is a sin. If you want to be a true contender, if you want to talk like you were a true contender and you want to sustain this success, even when Kansas City gets back to what they do, assuming they get back to what they've done for the past decade, assuming Baltimore gets back, who just made a move to get better and just traded for Max Crosby, you're going to have to deal with that in January. You have to keep improving. The Chargers are always nipping at your heels. I know that Jesse Minter's not in the division anymore, but still, they've got Justin Herbert, who's an incredible regular season quarterback. They still have weapons, and they just re-signed Khalil Mack. You have to go out and do something, and when this is by far your biggest glaring need on offense, something has to get done at running back, not a nickel and dime move to supplement what you already have. I know, I get that you like Harvey, but something else needs to be done here. And again, this is from Luka Evans, Denver Post. This is the article that we are pulling from here. So again, go give that a read. I'll link that in the description. And if you've made it this far already in the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Broncos Country. I'm a small Broncos YouTuber who absolutely adores this team, and we are trying to build something sweet here. Over here, actually. Don't forget to, just that. There we go. Let's keep pushing here. They talk about wideout here, and they're saying that Denver needs, and this is pretty much what we've all been saying, a high upside complement to Sutton or another trustworthy 4 or 5. which is essentially where I think a lot of Broncos fans are really speculating on some of these names here, because I think we've all come to the conclusion that Sutton's not exactly the number one that you need right now, and we don't know if somebody is going to develop into that. I think we saw some strides with Marvin Mims in the postseason, but you don't want to bank on that. I think Mims needs to play more wide receiver, and I think that's the consensus, but there are some interesting names that are thrown out here. Alec Pierce, who I think is going to be outside of Denver's pricing range, and I think the fan base is pretty split on whether or not they want him. I think he'd be fun, but I think Mims already does what he does. He just needs to play more. Juwan Jennings, Wan'Dale Robinson, who's coming off a 1,000-yard season, could be interesting. Rashid Shaheed, again, kind of another Marvin Mims archetype. I think he's just faster. Mike Evans, obvious name credit there. Legendary wide receiver Stephon Diggs, who I don't really think Denver needs to go out and get. Romeo Doubs, I think it was already reported that the 49ers are basically like guaranteed to get him at this point. Jahan Dotson, and then Jalen Naylor out of Minnesota. I don't love any of these options, maybe outside of Wan'Dale Robinson if you're really bringing in a number two, but I am going to quote Luka Evans here. The Broncos like their current receiver room, and I think I think that was made obvious when the receiver coach got fired, and then when they hired Ronald Curry, who's a Sean Payton guy, and we saw what he did with some of those wide receivers. I think Denver, and I think I've said this a couple of times, I think Denver has more faith, or the internal management. I think they've got more faith in this receiver room than us fans do. Don't be shocked, really, if Denver doesn't make a huge move here. As irritating as that's going to be, I wouldn't be shocked if Denver goes out and gets a Jahan Dotson, just to have a guy back there, maybe a Juwan Jennings, but I think he's going to be a little priced out of what Denver wants to spend, and Alec Pierce is 100% going to demand more money than Denver is willing to pay him. What I will say is that Denver does need to find a way to get better. I don't know if that comes just from development within. I think a lot of us are excited to see what Pat Bryant does in year two, as well as, if Mims actually gets some snaps here. I think that'd be really interesting. But they do mention something, and I am going to quote Luka Evans again here. Oh wow, I can't say his name. Dubs, Romeo Dubs. Romeo is a definite potential fit for the Broncos. Denver is interested in the former Green Bay receiver, and NFL source told the Post. Big-bodied target, doesn't demand the ball, good red zone production, can play in a bunch of alignments, and he is under the same agency with Knicks. Now, the plus with Romeo Doubs, there's the pronunciation coming back, Romeo Doubs, the plus with him is that he hasn't dropped a pass since 2023, and like I said, I don't know I don't know that the fan base likes the receiving room as much as the Broncos do. That it could be something that they address in the draft, and we will see that in April, obviously. But I think receiver is probably the least of our worries outside of QB and O-line right now. But let's keep it pushing to arguably Denver's second biggest need here, running back being up top as well. You could really interchange the three biggest needs. Tight end. Tight end is a spot that we have all been pissed about. So the only one that is a guaranteed lock to still be on the roster is Evan Ingram. Everybody else in the room can be lost. Trout, Adkins, Kroll, everybody can be lost. Denver needs, and this is quoting Luka, a legitimate inline tight end who can complement Ingram. And the thing is Denver definitely can't run it back here, but I don't know how strong this tight end class is. Now, what I do want to bring up, and I was talking about this with Kodiak last night, I think Daniel Bellinger is a guy that you could go out and get pretty solid production out of. Only had 19 catches last year, but for 286 yards, averaging 15.1 per catch, 2 touchdowns, one of them against Denver, torched Alex Singleton, and he's a guy that works in line as a blocker. He's essentially Adam Troutman plus, which for what Denver needs right now, I think is perfect for what they could be asking for. If you're not going to go out and make a super, swinging for the fences signing at the tight end position, but we could definitely see Denver go after somebody like a David Njoku, who we've seen play consistently well in Cleveland with that quarterback shit show. Chig Okonkwo is a guy that we could see them look at for a little bit more of a receiving option. I'm not sure that he's the greatest blocker in the world. Charlie Kohler is a guy that's been stuck behind Isaiah Likely, who's also a free agent. And Mark Andrews, who just got an extension, which a lot of Ravens fans I know weren't exactly thrilled about. It's gonna be interesting, but I'm gonna sound like a broken record here, kind of jumping off of Luka Evans, but Denver just can't. They can't run it back and expect to get better production out of the guys. Troutman hasn't been the guy out of Dayton that Sean Payton thought he was going to be. He's been a good locker room guy, but he's certainly someone that I think Denver can afford to lose. And you cannot just run it back straight up with Evan Ingram and expect him to produce all that much better. Was it the best tight end production Denver's really had in a few years? Even if it didn't look like it on paper, yeah. But that can't be it. You have to get Ingram a compliment, and you've got to find guys that can actually fucking block on in line, because that was a huge problem for Denver last year. Troutman wasn't effective, and they've got to get better there. O-line, I don't think that's really a spot that you need to address. I think you could find another guy in the draft. I mocked a guy in the 5th round, give or take, to Denver in the draft. So I don't think that's something that they're really going to look for in free agency. Defensive line gets a little interesting. Now, they do mention that they could lose Jordan Jackson. I believe they put a tender on him. Kodiak and I were talking about that last night. But John Franklin Myers has just priced himself out of Denver. I think Denver is going to have to find a body here just to replace some of this and maybe push some of the guys that are kind of fringe starters here. But Dondre Tillman likely to get an exclusive rights deal, which should really be good for him. But you've still got Ayuoma Uwazurike, Malcolm Roach, who's a guy that, us Broncos fans have really started to love. Jonah Ellis on a rookie deal, and Nick Benito on his extension. DJ Jones in here, Zach Allen on an extension. So JFM is definitely going to have to get replaced production-wise, because he was one of the anchors of this Denver defensive line. And I mean, if we just keep moving here, really, I don't think you need to take a huge swing here either. I think we've seen in smaller sample size that some of these guys look really well. Maybe that's a spot that Dondre Tillman could slide into. He's a little bit of a bigger body, listed as an outside linebacker. So he's definitely a guy that I think could play kind of that 5-tech defensive end that John Franklin Myers was playing. Just a guy that you could slide down, and honestly, I think it'd be pretty good off. I love Dondre Tillman personally, and then maybe you address it in the draft, but you do have Savion Jones kind of waiting in the wings. That remains to be seen. Some of the options, Calais Campbell, if you want to get, that deep. Sebastian Joseph Day, another old guy. Logan Hall from the Bucks. David Onyemata from the Falcons as well. Really, you would just be looking for a bridge there, I think. And I don't think the loss of JFM is completely irreplaceable. I think you can find decent guys either on the market or from within. I personally like what Denver has in some of these young players in the defensive line room or in the pass rush room. It's just going to be interesting to see how they supplement that going forward, because again, the sentiment is that JFM is as good as gone. And now here is the third position that we have been screaming from the rooftops that Denver needs to get better at, because I know that this fan base is ready to riot if Alex Singleton ends up coming back to Denver. So, and we look at who they have right now. Greenlaw, so this is currently not at risk of being lost. It's Greenlaw, Karene Reed, Jordan Turner, Lavelle Bailey, and Drew Saunders. The latter, nobody seems to have heard or seen from him in the past decade, and that's a problem. Drew Saunders has not been available for the Broncos at all. Dre Greenlaw was barely available last season. Karene Reed was kind of up and down on the practice squad. Jordan Turner, same deal. He had a couple of appearances. Lavelle Bailey has really only had one start that I can think of a couple of years ago. He looked really good in that, but it is what it is. Both starting linebackers, though, are guys that could be lost. Alex Singleton needs to be gone yesterday, and the sentiment is if he survives to Monday, he's gone. He's probably gone. And that is everything that Denver needs. I know we've been beating this dead horse so much this offseason, but that is because that needs to be... If Denver brings back Singleton, this is not a serious team. And that is just something that we have to accept. If they bring back Singleton, then they do not have championship standards. And that is a problem. Stranad, I do think, is going to be worth bringing back if that is something they want to do. He has made it clear that he wants to be the starting linebacker. So Denver is going to have to balance money and maybe giving him playing time. I don't know if he's willing to take a pay cut if he is guaranteed to be the starter. But he's due for a pay raise. He may have priced himself outside of Denver, but I do know that him and Greenlaw were a really fun duo to watch when they both got to take the field at the same time, whenever Singleton wasn't bashing his way into the lineup here. But the key options here, Devin Lloyd, I've been pounding the table for, although you are going to have to fork up a shit load of money for Devin Lloyd. Nakobe Dean, he's played pretty well over in Philadelphia. Quay Walker from Green Bay. Quincy Williams from the Jets. Caden Ellis from the Falcons could, unite the Ellis brothers here. I think he's been a little bit underrated. Alex Anzalone, EJ Speed, Bobby Okereke, I think are really just floor raisers at this point. I don't think anyone gives you a true ceiling raiser outside of Devin Lloyd. I just don't know if Denver's going to fork out that much money, but they are reportedly very interested in this free agent class. It's just going to depend on who it is at this point. But it's the same discussion that I was having about running back. Again, if you bring back Alex Singleton, this is not a serious organization, and that is just something that we would have to accept. At that point, that they would either have to fluke into a Super Bowl at that point because the defense would be trying so hard to cover up Singleton's weaknesses, and that would be a massive problem. Again, I know we've been beating this horse, but that is what needs to happen. Singleton needs gone, and Denver needs to fix this goddamn position. I don't know if that means taking somebody in the draft. Maybe you find an Anthony Hill in the second round out of Texas. Maybe you find a CJ Allen falling to you in the first round at 30. Whatever the case, Denver needs to do anything but bring Alex Singleton back. I don't know what to say. So according to Luca Evans, they have interest in Anzalone and Speed. I don't love that idea. I think they're just floor raisers. But Nakobe Dean is a guy that says would be interested for the right price in coming to Denver. So that is something to watch right there. So now we look in the secondary. The only guy that Denver is really about to lose is going to be PJ Locke, and I think he's gone. You do have Devin Key, who special teams all-pro. I think he made strides at safety. He definitely was not the same guy that imploded that Baltimore game in 2024. So I think that's a plus. They will have to replace that body to replace Locke. And then they do... You want to get somebody that is going to push. So some potential names, Tony Adams for the Jets. No interceptions, obviously. The Jets didn't pick anybody off. Dane Belton from the Giants. Kyle Duggar from the Steelers. Andrew Wingard from the Jags, who was a guy that I really liked watching this year. Watching some of the Jags games just throughout the year, especially against Denver. Got a good look at him there. D'Anthony Bell from the Panthers. Rodney Thomas from the Colts. I think Denver's going to bring in... I think they're going to bring in just a body. They're going to bring in somebody, I think, just on the cheap, somebody to fill that spot and maybe give a little bit of budget production too. But hey, that's all I got here. So if you did enjoy this episode of the Crushing It Podcast, again, don't forget to like and subscribe. We're on the way to 500. And without further ado, wow, I botched this outro. With all that being said, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening, if you were listening, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.